friends, and thank you very much for being here this evening. While this is the first time in the new year that we are meeting here, we've been very active, but in keeping with our focus on various parts of India, we are also having press briefings elsewhere. I saw some of you in my interactions outside Delhi, but for many of you, this is my first occasion to interact with you this year. I have one sort of a readout for you, and then if there are any other questions, I will answer on that or on anything else. And this relates to the visit of the United Nations Secretary-General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. You are aware that the United Nations Secretary-General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, is in India on his 4th visit to India as the UN Secretary-General. Following his meeting yesterday with the Prime Minister, today the UN Secretary-General had a very expansive discussion with the External Affairs Minister, Srimati Sushma Swaraj. India is engaged with the United Nations on a wide array of issues, and therefore the discussions covered several topics. Among these were the United Nations peacekeeping operations, matters relating to climate change and environment, growing global concerns on terrorism, the United Nations Security Council reform, and the United Nations Development Agenda. Let me try and encapsulate for you what were the main issues in each of these. You are aware that India has been traditionally amongst the largest contributors to peacekeeping operations. Currently, we have more than 8,000 Indian personnel. These are troops, officers, observers, police personnel combined, deployed in 10 of the 16 United Nations peacekeeping operations. And therefore, there was a fairly detailed discussion about the evolving doctrine of the United Nations on peacekeeping. External Affairs Minister did raise our views relating to the role that troop-contributing countries should have in UN peacekeeping mandates, because after all, their troops are the ones which are protecting the peace. Their troops are the ones which lay down their lives in the services of the United Nations, and right now the mechanism is fairly frail in terms of contributions to the mandate of the United Nations peacekeeping operations by the troop-contributing countries. The Secretary-General did acknowledge this and said that he has set up a group to review this. This is headed by the East Timor leader, Mr. Jose Ramos Horta, and it has also an Indian representative on it, a former Indian peacekeeper. And so as this moves during the course of the year, this will be an important issue that figures in UN discussions on peacekeeping. Once the report is out, this will be available for everybody to discuss and debate on. The second area of discussion was the forthcoming conference on climate change in Paris towards the end of the year. The Secretary-General outlined that it was a priority for him that all member states focus on this and try to get an agreement, because negotiations have gone on for too long. The External Affairs Minister, in her response, outlined in great detail the sort of things that we are taking, we have started or ventured upon in terms of our own commitments to ensuring that our development is sustainable. For example, she mentioned that we have increased by fivefold our renewable energy target. It was 20,000 megawatts by 2022. It is now planned to be 100,000 megawatts by 2022. So it's a fivefold increase. This will be solar, this will be wind. Also, she explained recent attempts or efforts between India and our neighboring countries for hydropower, which is again low carbon fuel, low carbon form of energy, electricity generation through hydropower. And she explained the movement that was there between India and Nepal, also the efforts that we are making to speed up the projects between India and Bhutan. So even in a regional framework, we are aware of the importance of having a low carbon footprint in terms of our energy production. There was also a response also included what we are doing in terms of environment, cleaning the environment, including the Clean Ganga project, and how it would benefit a large number of people along the Ganges, more than 40 or so big towns and 6,000 villages, 2,400 kilometers, etc. So the idea was that there is a lot of effort being made by the government of India in terms of being responsive to global environmental concerns and concerns regarding climate change, because we see this as something of benefit for India itself. Following that, there was also a discussion on UN Security Council reforms. External Affairs Minister did mention that the 70th anniversary of the UN, which will be celebrated this year, would be an appropriate occasion for the member states to try and renew an organization which increasingly is being perceived as not being able to act in terms of peace and security also, because of the sort of anachronistic nature of the Security Council, and therefore its actions lacking credibility and acceptance in various countries. This also, she indicated, adds up to the budgetary cost of the United Nations, because if peacekeeping is not pursued in a manner which is acceptable to all, then costs mount because the operations don't come to a successful conclusion. And so if I may try and sum up, this was a discussion which covered a lot of ground, which helped us to understand the UN's perspective on a lot of things, and it indicates our engagement on a global stage on a variety of issues which are not only relating to one area, but on multiple areas, that is peace and security, development, climate change, reform, and that's where we are on in terms of our discussions with the United Nations on all these areas. I think I will stop with that, and if you have any questions on this or subsequently on anything else, I'm willing to answer them. So we can start off with questions on UN Secretary General's view. Vinitha?
But India has been largely very unhappy with the way UN peacekeeping has been happening, more for the reason that we have lost a lot of soldiers in these peacekeeping operations. And we have been demanding for us to be party when the decisions on operations are taken place. So is the officer concerned party to the same sort of format where we rework the operational parts?
Yeah, what is being done now is the Secretary General has received several complaints from India, but also from several other troop contributing countries for the reasons that you said and that I've enumerated. So what he's done is he's set up a panel. And this panel will, in one part of its work, is to see what have been the implications of lack of inputs from troop contributors in terms of difficulties faced by troops. This will be an element of that work. Of course, this is a broader issue of how the doctrine of peacekeeping should evolve. Because should peacekeeping be limited to areas where there is peace to keep, or should peacekeeping go beyond that? And these are issues which are of a fundamental nature impacting on the nature of peacekeeping. And this will also be another element of it. A third will be how peacekeeping can benefit from modern technologies. Because there are an array of modern technologies or modern logistics which can support peacekeeping operations. In this context, he also did raise the issue of that they were very keen to have with them an air component which was previously provided by India in Congo, which we had subsequently withdrawn due to our own requirements. So he did mention that Congo being such a large country, they felt acutely the need for an air component, which is largely a helicopter component, I think, of Indian helicopters which were providing them logistical support. So that would be a third element. There will be these various elements, and then it will come for further discussion in the United Nations General Assembly, that report. If you have any further questions on this, if you do not have, then the floor is open for anything else. Yes, Ashok?
Akbar, could you tell us about India's views on the recent development in Sri Lanka?
That's a rather expansive question, recent developments in Sri Lanka, but I think I have nothing further to add to the fact that I have said before. That is, Sri Lanka has a very healthy and very healthy tradition of democratic change at regular intervals, and you can look back at its history. We welcome this completion of the democratic exercise in Sri Lanka. Prime Minister was amongst the earliest to congratulate the new President of Sri Lanka. Subsequently, he also sent a letter inviting the President of Sri Lanka to visit India. The Sri Lankan President, when he met our envoy there, indicated that he would be visiting India at an early date in his tenure. We look forward to that visit. And we look forward to a relationship with Sri Lanka which is cordial, which is warm and friendly, and we hope for peace and stability in Sri Lanka, and hope that the new government in Sri Lanka will take into account the views of all segments of the Sri Lankan population to live a life of dignity and peace. Yeah, Nidhi.
Akbar, can you tell us whether Prime Minister Modi was invited to Paris to take part in the march, and ultimately why didn't India send a political representative to go there rather than the ambassador?
The government of India was invited, and like the majority of the governments who were invited there, our ambassador participated in that, like the majority of the countries who were represented there. So this was purely in terms of our logistical requirements at that stage, given the fact that we have very vociferously condemned the situation. External Affairs Minister has written to her counterpart, Mr. Laurent Fabius. The Prime Minister talked to the President of France, and he was amongst the earliest to condemn. So make no mistake, our views are very forthright and clear. We are on the side of those who condemned this barbaric incident. Now, as regards participation, it's always a factor of timing, logistics, as well as various other commitments. So frankly, As far as we are concerned, we have joined in that march at an appropriate level, as I said, at the level that most of those who were invited participated in it.
But was the TM invited?
As I said, it's always the invitation is always to the government. Invitations are not usually to individuals. They're always asking for representatives of governments. And therefore, in some occasions, we send heads of government, some occasions we send heads of state, some occasions other senior representatives, and some occasions our ambassadors represent the country. After all, they are plenipotentiaries. Yes, Sanjay?
Mr. Sartaj Azizs has said that India is carrying out attacks on Pakistan via Afghanistan through Afghan soil. What does the Indian government have to say on this?
Sanjay, we all know who is upstreaming terrorism and who endeavors to downstream terrorism. It certainly is not India. We all also know that the main threat to peace and security in Afghanistan comes from terrorism. Therefore, don't be misled by those who intend to obscure the challenge that safe havens pose to peace and security in the region. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, as President Obama visits India, are the areas of cooperation already worked out?
I can confirm to you that the government of India is taking the visit of, is looking forward to the visit of President Obama with great enthusiasm. Yesterday, when Secretary of State Kerry was in Gandhinagar, he had a meeting with Prime Minister, during which there was a discussion on various elements, including elements relating to the agenda of the visit. However, at this stage, this is a work in progress. We are going to have further discussions in terms of what would be the outcomes of that visit. But make no mistake that both India and the US look at this as a landmark visit. We are both keen to have an excellent outcome for these visits. We are working hard on it, and we will keep you informed once we reach there. But we have still some time to work on these, and we're working on these. That's where we are. So please be patient, wait for the outcomes, and you won't be disappointed. Yes, sir. Charu?
Sir, when the Secretary of State Kerry met Prime Minister yesterday, did the issue of the tensions between India and Pakistan on the border figure at all in their dialogue?
No. Yes, Gautam?
Sir, my question relates to recent violence in Bangladesh, where the opposition party started a movement, what they called a restoration of democracy. Now, some of their leaders are openly saying, they have told local media as well as to the Indian media, they are seeking help from the government of India for their cause of so-called restoration of democracy. Whether government of India has any role is playing or any idea of playing a future role?
You know, Gautam, you are aware that our consistent policy towards a neighbor like Bangladesh is that it is for the government and people of Bangladesh to determine what sort of a society they want and what are the issues that they face. It is not for India to venture into that. We desire a peaceful, stable, secure Bangladesh. However, It is for the government and the people of Bangladesh to decide how they want to go about it. Government of India only wishes the best for the government and people of Bangladesh. Yes, Manu?
There have been reports coming in today of a minor car accident involving John Kerry. Any details on it and whether there was any security breach in the same, sir?
I'm not aware of this. I, like you, have also seen that report. In cases like these, it's the local authorities who provide the logistical support, but I do not see this as being treated as any major issue because the U.S. State Department themselves have indicated these were of a minor nature. And they were on the spot, so they know best. Yes, sir.
Can I ask you when John Kerry is going depart from India? When is he going?
When?
Tomorrow or today?
No, I think he left. He left quite some time ago, just after those stories came out. Yes, sir.
Sir, any indications whether President Obama would be visiting any other city in India outside of New Delhi?
I can inform you that the logistical details will be worked out during the latter half of this week when we are having a senior level delegation of the US government here in Delhi who will work out all the logistical details which are of course of great interest to you, and I can share them with you once those final outcomes are agreed to between the visiting team and our officials here. But we haven't reached that stage here as yet. They haven't yet come. If you have nothing. Yes, sir. Last question. Oh, there's someone. Oh, yes, Ranjana. Sorry, I didn't see.
Sir, Greenpeace activist was offloaded, so I believe they wrote to the MEA also. So any news on that?
Well, through you, I can tell them that MEA has no role to play in terms of immigration of Indian nationals, whether coming in or going out. I think they need to be advised by you of where the response can be available. It's certainly not with the MEA because immigration is not our area of jurisdiction. Yes, last question.
Sir, Japanese foreign minister is going to visit later this week. Can you indicate some of the areas which are going to come up for discussion?
Yes. Yes, Foreign Minister Kishida will be in India from 16th to 18th. And this is an important visit because it is the first visit of the Japanese foreign minister after the swearing in of the new government in Japan. We welcome this symbol that it is, which signifies the importance that Japan places on relations with India. He will be chairing the strategic dialogue with the External Affairs Minister Srimati Sushma Swaraj. This is the 8th strategic dialogue. We've had this since 2007. The last such strategic dialogue was held in March 2013. So it's nearly 2 years since this has happened. So we are looking forward to their discussions. Now, you are aware of the path-breaking nature of Prime Minister's visit to Japan last year. And you are also aware of the outcomes of that visit. This visit is intended to take forward those outcomes in terms of reaching their logical conclusion. So, what were the outcomes that were there? One of the biggest outcomes was doubling Japanese investment in India in 5 years. We are looking forward to discussions on how this is going to happen. Number 2 was increasing private sector investment in India from Japan. So there will be a review of what has happened since that visit and what are the plans for this year. These would be two major issues. Of course, when India and Japan meet, there are several other issues they will discuss. This includes our common interests in further cooperating in the Indo-Pacific region. Also, we will share with them our perceptions of regional developments in our region, and they will bring to the table their understanding of issues in their part of the world, and we will both benefit from this. Finally, both India and Japan are members of the G4. So Security Council reform will be an important element in the discussions. So if no one has any further questions, thank you very much for being here this evening.